This week, we look into the passion of our Lord Jesus. But we view this through the eyes of the Old Testament prophet Isaiah. Today is Holy Monday, and today we remember the very mission of Jesus. And thinking about the mission of Jesus, we just have to ask, why did Jesus allow himself to go through so much suffering? The simple answer is, it was part of his mission to suffer and die. It was prophesied by no less than the prophet Isaiah, who wrote, "See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured, beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So he will sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told, they will see, and what they have not heard, they will understand." This passage in the book of Isaiah is one of a number of passages in the Old Testament that prophesied about the coming Messiah. In the understanding of the Jews, the Messiah means God's anointed servant, the one chosen by God to fulfill his purposes for Israel, to rebuild the ruined temple and to restore the rule of God over Israel. The people of Israel had been looking forward to the coming of the Messiah for many, many years. But they did not expect what that entailed. They had no idea of the full scope of what the Messiah was all about. The servant whom God will send will be greatly honored. The servant's glory will be like the glory of God. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted, just as God is high and exalted. But before he is glorified, the servant will have to suffer first. He will be disfigured. His appearance will be marred beyond human likeness. When these passages were written, the Jews probably didn't understand what Isaiah was talking about. But when Jesus finally came, many centuries later, as Jesus was brutalized and tortured, as he was beaten and scourged by Roman soldiers just before he was crucified on the cross, and hung there for 6 hours of pure agony, all his lifeblood draining away from his mutilated body until he finally died. That was when these words of Isaiah became very clear. Jesus the Messiah suffered and died in faithful obedience to the mission given to him by the Father. And we too, we who follow Jesus, are also called upon to sometimes suffer for the sake of Christ. Because obedience to the Lord very often means going against the corrupt ways of the world. And we will sometimes suffer in our obedience to Christ, just as Christ suffered in obedience to the Father. And as we remember and appreciate the obedience of Jesus to the will of the Father, and as we learn to fully submit our lives to the will of God as well, may we always remember, faith matters too.